They say love finds you when you least expect it. And for me, it happened in a place I had never associated with romance school. My name is Emily, and looking back now, I never imagined that my journey of love would begin in the very hallways where I had spent my childhood. It wasn't a whirlwind romance or love at first sight. It wasn't a dramatic confession under the rain, or a moment straight out of a movie. No, it was something slow, something that took root in the simplest of moments, something that started with friendship and, without warning, grew into the deepest, most profound love I had ever known. I was 16 when I first met Daniel. We had been in the same grade for years but had never truly spoken. Had changed the day fate decided to bring us together in the most unexpected of places, detention. I had stayed back for forgetting to submit my homework, while he was there for being caught passing notes in class. At first, we sat in silence, two unwilling captives of the same dull hour, lost in our own thoughts. But as the minutes stretched on, boredom gave way to curiosity. There was something about him, an air of quiet confidence, a subtle charm that wasn't loud but impossible to ignore. He didn't speak much at first, but when he did, his words carried a warmth that made you want to listen. I had never thought I'd find joy in detention, but there I was, sharing stolen moments of laughter with a boy I had never really noticed before. It was in that moment that something shifted, something unspoken but undeniable. And though I didn't realize it then, that seemingly ordinary hour in detention was the beginning of something extraordinary. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, almost unknowingly, I found myself drawn to him in ways I couldn't explain. I began noticing the little things, the way his messy hair fell over his forehead, no matter how many times he pushed it back. How his eyes sparkled with unfiltered passion whenever he spoke about his favorite books. How he had a quiet yet unshakable strength that made him stand up for others, even when it meant getting himself into trouble. There was something about Daniel that made the world seem lighter. Something about the way he existed that made me want to know every part of him. Our friendship grew effortlessly, like the turning pages of a book neither of us wanted to end. We shared stories about our families, our dreams, and the fears we dared not voice to anyone else. He told me about his father's expectations, about the pressure of living up to a legacy he wasn't sure he wanted. I told her about my struggles with self-doubt, about how I sometimes felt like I was running toward a future I hadn't yet defined. And somewhere between the whispered secrets in empty hallways and the stolen glances across crowded classrooms, something unspoken began to bloom. School was our world, and within that world, our connection became undeniable. Then, on one unforgettable winter afternoon, everything changed. The final bell had rung, but we had stayed behind to help our teacher set up for an event. As the last traces of daylight faded, the sky darkened, and soon, the rhythmic sound of raindrops filled the air. The downpour came without warning, drenching the school grounds within minutes. Without thinking, we ran laughing, breathless, until we found shelter under the large oak tree near the football field. The world around us blurred, the rain falling in endless streams. Yet in that moment, nothing else existed but him. He looked at me then, his usual playful expression replaced by something deeper, something raw. His gaze held mine, searching, as if waiting for a sign that I understood what he was about to say. My pulse quickened, my breath unsteady, though I didn't know why. "Emily," he murmured, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Do you ever feel like some things are meant to happen?" The way he said it, the weight of those words made my chest tighten. I swallowed hard, nodding, though I wasn't sure if I was agreeing or simply surrendering to the moment. He took a slow, deliberate breath, his eyes never leaving mine. I think I'm falling for you." The world stood still. The rain kept falling, The wind whispered through the trees, but I heard nothing beyond the thunderous beating of my own heart. And in that moment, with the storm raging around us, I knew my life would never be the same again. The words hung in the air between us, blending with the soft rhythm of raindrops hitting the ground. It was as if time had paused, waiting for me to process what I had just heard. I had never imagined this moment, not like this, not here, not now, but somehow, ... It felt as if everything in my life had led up to it. Love had always seemed like a distant dream, something that happened in books or movies, not in the quiet corners of a schoolyard beneath a rain-soaked tree. But hearing those words from him, feeling the raw honesty behind them, I realized something. I didn't have to imagine love anymore. It was standing right in front of me. I didn't rush to answer. Instead, I let the moment breathe, let the weight of his words settle in my heart. Slowly, I reached for his hand, my fingers trembling slightly as they intertwined with his. I didn't need to say anything, because in that touch, in that simple yet profound connection, I had already given him my answer. ... He exhaled, relief flooding his face, and for a brief second, the storm around us no longer mattered. We stood there, two souls caught in the middle of something bigger than either of us. Something neither of us could have planned for, but something that felt more real than anything we had ever known. From that day on, school was no longer just a place of books and lessons. It became the backdrop of a love story that unfolded in the simplest yet most beautiful ways. Stolen glances across the classroom spoke volumes when words weren't enough. Passing notes became whispered confessions, secrets only we understood. Hallways that had once felt ordinary turned into places where every shared moment carried meaning. Even the sound of the morning bell had a new significance. It was the beginning of another day where I got to see him, to share something unspoken yet undeniable. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Love, no matter how strong, is never without its challenges. There were misunderstandings, times when pride got in the way, when words were misinterpreted, when silence hurt more than anger. There were moments of jealousy, of insecurity, of questioning what would happen when school ended, and life inevitably moved forward. The uncertainty of the future loomed over us, whispering doubts we tried our best to ignore. But through it all, we held on to one truth: we chose each other. And that choice, that unwavering commitment to hold on despite everything, made all the difference. Looking back now, I realize that love isn't just found in grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Sometimes, it's in the quiet moments, in the everyday places, in the unspoken understanding between two people who simply fit. And so, in the place where I once learned math and science, I also learned something far greater: the meaning of love. A love that started in the most unexpected of places, but one that lasted far beyond the walls of our school. A love that, even years later, I carry with me, as proof that sometimes the most ordinary beginnings can lead to the most extraordinary stories.